はお時間となりましたので、これより
Thank
デ
you
ジタル
for
通貨が変える
waiting.
ビジネスと社会を
We
テ
will
ーマに
start
トーク
the
セッションを行っ
session
てまいります。
how digital
はじめにトークセッ
currencies
シ
will
ョンにご
change
参加いただ
business
きます
and
皆様をご紹介さ
society.
せていただきます。
Introducing
ま
the
ずは
members for this
ソラミツ
talk
代表取
session.
締役社長
First of
宮
all,
沢和
President
正
of
様です。宮沢
Soramitsu,
様、どうぞよろしくお願いいたし
Mr.
ます。大きな拍
Kazumasa
手でお迎えくださ
Miyazawa.
い。
Please welcome him.
さて続きましては LVC 代
The
表取
next
締役社長
participant, CEO of LVC, Mr. Im In-gyu. Please welcome him with a big applause.
続きまして KPMG ジャパン
From KPMG Japan, Deputy Director, Fintech Innovation Division, Mr. Kenji Hoki-san.
最後に KPMG ジャパン
From KPMG, Director of Japan Fintech Innovation Division, Mr. Masayori Shoji-san.
さてそれでは宮沢様、林様、保木様、庄司様
Mr. Miyazawa, Mr. Im, Mr. Hoki, the floor is yours. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Shoji.
So I will be the moderator of this session, How Digital Currencies Change Business and Society. My name is Shoji. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I would like to invite a speaker from Soramitsu and LVC to explain what they are doing with this topic. So I would like to first ask for presentations from the two of them. Mr. Miyazawa, please.
Thank you for the introduction. I am the President, Representative Director of Soramitsu. My name is Miyazawa. A brief introduction of myself. Currently, we are developing blockchain at Soramitsu. I am the representative at Tokyo Institute of Technology. I also teach. I am the member of the ISO TC 307 Blockchain Standardization Committee. My past experiences, I have worked with a Cambodian Central Bank as the project manager. I was member of Financial Committee, member of Japanese FSA. I was working for about 20 years at Rakuten in the area of electronic money, including transportation cards like Suica. And this is what we have been doing in terms of blockchain. First of all, our overseas activities. The largest overseas program, the world first, was a central bank digital currency in the case of Central Bank of Cambodia and National Bank of Cambodia. From July last year, it has been in operation. 1 year has passed. Fortunately, no problem, and the Cambodian population are using, and this is fully applied. Moscow Stock Exchange Group, the digital depository blockchain service from 2018. This has gone online in Indonesia. This is the DID, Identity Platform. Plus, in Switzerland, there is a cryptocurrency issued under the name of Soda. In Japan, again, Japan first, NHK, TV, newspapers are kindly reporting, but Byakko is a blockchain-based original digital currency already in use, working together with Aizu Wakamatsu University. With Aizu University, together with IO Nisei, Smart Contract Insurance, together with Rakuten, a DID platform, and interoperability development with Polkadot or with 3F or D3 Ledger. The largest characteristic is a high speed and scalable, and the finality is like 1 to 2 seconds or several thousands, like thousands of transactions can be processed per second. So at this moment, this is the fastest in terms of processing speed in the world. And this is the Cambodia example. Some of the characteristics from small lot to like $1 to millions of dollars. It can be done by a single blockchain. In the case of Bank of Japan, there's Nichiki Net or Index. There are multiple layers. But in the case of Cambodia, this is one blockchain for whatever the size of the transaction. And 2022 ISO, this is followed. And the digital inclusion is the objective, or financial payment for the entire nation has been significantly simplified, and all other transfer fees or merchant fees, they are all free of charge, no fees. Cross-border payment is also possible with the Central Bank of Thailand. There is a contract, and also contract with Malaysian Central Bank. Cross-border payment is expanding steadily. In the case of Japan, as I explained about the Cambodian CBCD case, the central bank digital currency system is utilized, although in Japan, a digital currency has been issued, which is the first in Japan, starting with the University of Aizu. What is different from ordinary cashless is it is a token based, and it has an equivalent value to cash. You can use it as soon as you receive it. No need to pay by the bank transfer next month. So that kind of bank transfer is not required, which means the liquidity is very good, and there is extremely frequent circulation, not only P2P, but company-to-company transfer or receipt of salaries and benefits, or the 100,000 yen coronavirus benefit payment, all are possible, and double transaction or tampering can be eliminated because of the use of blockchain. Operating cost is extremely low. I will talk more later, but what is the future that can be realized by digital currency? There are 3 points. Post-corona, after coronavirus, corporate digital transformation are being promoted. All of you might be thinking, digital currency has the fourth function. Currency has 3 functions: storage and payment and distribution. In addition to that fourth function, it could be either container for commercial EDI or financial EDI. And by doing so, it can be transferred to other parties. So digital currency will create a variety of information. There is a large expectation. The Bank of Japan has a similar views. The corporate workflow can be digitalized. Blockchain, digital currencies should be a huge contribution. But then, between the existing systems and between the digital blockchain, it will become a hybrid, and therefore cybersecurity becomes critically important. Today we issued a press release. Aspiration is an Israeli technology-based Japanese company. We have joined an alliance. In total, from blockchain to cybersecurity, there is a holistic support that can be provided. And the second is the frequent circulation token-based technology brings new opportunities. Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, they are working on the revision of the labor standard law. By the end of this year or next year, it will be possible to pay the benefits or the salaries by digital currency. So the entry point is important. As a digital platformer, we set up a joint venture as of April. This new entity will work with banks, local government authorities, that there will be a unified nationwide platform. Retail shops based B2C but B2E between the employee, like including the salaries, or B2B between corporates, or B2G between government and the businesses. For all these payments and settlement, all these transactions can be supported. This kind of cashless economic zone will become larger. This will be significantly, incomparably larger than what used to exist. The third point is a global CBDC discussion. It is widely reported. You have observed in the media. So digital renminbi Already in 5 cities, demonstrations are ongoing. In Cambodia, so the world's first. There's one in Sweden. Many governments are thinking about issuing digital currency. And finally, in Japan, in the Big Bone report or the review of the fiscal and monetary management, I am a member of the advisory committee, and there are discussions about the private digital currency and the public digital currency, that both should be able to coexist according to the policy. And therefore, in number 2, the private digital currency, it will connect the private institutions, and eventually there should also be a connection, interoperability with the central bank. So supply chains or trade logistics, low cost and immediate same-day cross-border transactions should be possible. That was my initial remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miyazawa. Next, I'd like to turn to Mr. Lim from LVC. Please introduce your company. Thank you. My name is Lim from LVC Corporation. Very briefly, let me introduce myself. So, Marble and NCSoft, Kakao, I have been working for many IT companies and game companies in entertainment and so on. And last year in March, I joined LVC Corporation, and I have been part of the crypto asset business. Actually, LVC Corporation is part of the Line Fintech Group. As you can see, there are many Line Fintech companies, and Line Financial Corporation, Line Pay Corporation, LVC Corporation. These are the 3 main Line Fintech companies. And LVC Corporation is in charge of the crypto assets and blockchain-related business. And the details are shown on the next slide. But first of all, Line has many customer base and many types of business, but Line has developed the Line blockchain business domain. One is the Line blockchain. This is the main network. So this is one. And number 2 is the digital asset called Link. So the crypto asset called Link is provided by LVC. This is a global business, but also on the 6th of August, we have been able to launch Link. And there are exchanges and wallets. So in terms of exchange, we have a BitMax in Japan, and overseas, outside of Japan, we have Bitfront. And right-hand bottom of line, you will see the X mark. And if you go to BitMax within the Line app, you'll be able to confirm the Line's crypto asset. And then, in order to create various business and services in blockchain, we are also preparing to launch the blockchain wallet. And lastly, we also operate a crypto fund called the Unblock Ventures. We have invested in about 10 projects thus far in various fields, in various projects. So this is a venture capital fund for crypto business. Next slide, please. This is the Line token economy. So what we are trying to do here is, first, there is the Line blockchain on the bottom, and new tokens are created and allocated. That is the left-hand side of the picture. From the Line blockchain, many dApps and services allocated links and tokens. Many dApps and services receive the token and distribute that to the users. And the actual users receive the tokens, and then they can use that for the services and dApps, or they can use it in the blockchain. So this is a very simplified diagram. This is my last slide. In the LINE blockchain and the LINE token economy, what is the vision that we have for the future? LINE is currently it has exchange business like Bitmax and Bitfront. However, LINE has still not been able to conduct business in all of these fields, but that is included in the vision, for example, of fintech, advertising, and so on. In many business fields, we would like to link to the LINE blockchain and network and provide a token economy. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
それぞれご質問したことはあるんですが、最後にちょっとまとめてということで、じゃあ
Thank you. I actually have a few questions I'd like to ask, but next I would like to go to Hoki-san.
代表と
Thank you.
紹介いただいたんですけど、発言自体は個人の意見というふうに捉えていただ
I
いている
will
と
talk not on behalf of the KPMG, but I will talk as an individual. My name is Hoki of KPMG. Very briefly, my background. I do not do the actual business myself. Originally, I was the fund manager in financial institutions. In 2003, I joined the Japanese FSA. At SCSC, I have worked. I have been to the US CFTC. I have also been seconded to OECD. For 11 years, I was at the government. 6 years ago, I joined ASASA. I am engaged in advisory services. The crypto asset industry is what I have been long interested in. So rather than my business, I was engaged in the cryptocurrency benchmark, or I was the chairperson of the subcommittee at cryptocurrency custody business. I have been engaged in such trade organizations. In terms of digital currency, 4.5 years ago, there was the forum on payment and settlement systems organized by the Bank of Japan. I had the honor to offer my presentation. The central banks, without issuing digital currency, that central banks are expected to lose the means of monetary control. This is already discussed 4.5 years ago. So, business using digital currency, it would be payment settlement services. Some of the characteristics or advantages is the characteristic of the currency to make it into business. A currency means it is a single currency, and an economic community area can be made, and the private sector are now able to create a new economic community with a single currency, which is a new phenomenon. And by digitalization, to understand the customer needs and to customize for each and every customer becomes increasingly important. Plus, the user interface in the non-digital world, how to create your interface with the users and the customers. So in that sense, to have a foothold in currency and the digital will be very important for corporate strategies. And that is why I understand LINE also is now engaged in this area, but there are some challenges. A huge customer base is required, very hard to establish from scratch or zero. And the payment business itself is very difficult to make it profitable. And therefore, how to monetize, how to make it commercially viable. Without monetization, it would be difficult to make it a viable commercial business. I spoke about economic community. There are multiple categories. Number one, the number of users. You need a certain threshold in order to make it commercially viable. At the same time, the coverage, dissemination, how high the coverage is in a certain domain. These would be the two important factors. There was an introduction about Byakko, the regional digital currency. The number of users, the customers might be limited, but in a particular region, if the coverage is high, then the legal tender, digital currency, the coverage is like 60%, but if a particular regional currency coverage is 80% in a particular region, which means that a particular regional digital currency is more convenient in that particular region. So how to define the community area is also important. There are multiple categories, and the first two, the global stable coin, there is no border or stable coin. These two currencies, how to comply with the regulation. This is the constant challenge. But at the bottom, intercompany coin, at a smaller, limited region, the coverage can be higher, but then the larger challenge is whether it is commercially viable. And therefore, personally, I think community currency, the legal tender might be a CBDC, or whether it is a private sector, a stable coin. At least in terms of commercial business, I think it is viable. So I find community currency with a very high potential interesting. Thank you.
すみません、プレゼンのことについてちょっといくつかお二人
Kihoki-san, I would like to ask a few questions with regards to the presentation, starting from Miyazawa-san.
今
So
稼
Bakon
働してもう1年になられるところ
has been 1 year since its operation. What is the usage rate?
まだ大々的に宣伝はあまりしてないということもあって今数万人というふうに
Not much advertisement. It's like a few tens of thousands.
銀行は大手が24
And the banks, there are 24 large banks, and already 14 have joined Bakon. And in terms of bank transfer, it is extensively used. What is interesting
国全体ではドルが
is that the country of Cambodia, 70% to 80% of payment is US dollars, and real, their own national currency accounts for only 20%. But with the introduction of Bakon, it's the other way, 60% real and 40% is dollars. I mean, there are multiple reasons that the money paper, it's a lot, so it's easier without carrying, and the rural people are using more, and therefore the Cambodian real, they are used more in the rural area. So these are multiple reasons, but the Central Bank of Cambodia, they were aiming to expand the use of real rather than dollars.
コントロールをしていくという
Plus,
ふうにはかなり
they wanted more control over their financial system. So the aim of the central bank has been fulfilled.
使い勝手がいいとやっぱりその通
That is very interesting. So when the usability is high, the value of the currency goes up, and the penetration also improves. I think this is this also means that the Bank of Japan has to think about this more.
リブラが入ってくると日本はどうなるのかとかですね
With the introduction of Libra, what might happen in Japan, or with digital yen or digital renminbi? It might be more convenient than digital yen, so the scenery might change. So we should not be complacent.
ちなみに収益化っていうのは
Thank you very much. By the way, in terms of profitability,
考えてないので無料
this is a state-run operation, so perhaps profitability is not that important, so that is free of charge. Or is the cost very low?
10分の1ぐらいでできて
But the cost, it's like 50 times smaller than the existing services using blockchain. And the central bank, they issue paper monies, and there's distribution, transportation, operation of the ATM, but all those would be unnecessary, and therefore the digital currency is much cheaper. That is why it is free of
大
charge.
体日本でもその現金
I see.
ハンドリン
In Japan as well, the handling cost for cash seems to be very high. So the lower the usage of cash, the lower the cost, I believe. That is right.
That is right. In the case of Japan, yes, it's like 20 yen, or yes, maintenance of the ATM or the over-the-counter bank tellers are unnecessary, so there's a big cost reduction.
イム様の方ですねちょっと
Thank you very much. Next, to Mr. Lim.
この8000万人使ってる LINE の中
I
で
think the 80 million people are using Line. So cryptocurrency within the Line group, I think, draws a lot of attention. But fintech service, you have a lot of fintech service within Line.
が
But perhaps there is a bit of competition. For example, Line Coin, various point systems. The existing Line digital points, how can that coexist with this domain? Yes, so blockchain and the virtual currency related business is not really for the short term, but how can Line Group as a whole create value for the future? And so at this moment, the various challenges and many things that we have to consider. So we cannot say that this is the clear line dividing these different services, but I think in a more of a long term, for the users of Line, what kind of values, what kind of services should we provide? That should be the starting point for how we develop our businesses. So I think this is the way we should think about this. Thank you very much. So maybe that not everything can be shared at this juncture. So I understand that. But when we talk about digital currency, there is some volatility, right? You have listed the new link in Japan, but something with the volatility being exchanged among the line users, is that okay? Is that like people saving these currency within Line? It's important that they use it, right? Correct. So Link is a crypto asset, and it is on the white paper as well. Basically, people can purchase and hold on to this, but they can also contribute to the ecosystem and receive Link as a remuneration for their contribution. And perhaps they can use this, or they can also hold on to this as an investment. And that is up to the users on what to do with the crypto asset. As the service provider, we hope that the Line users can utilize this within this the open platform, not just under the Line brand. I see. So what are the benefits and what are the usages? It is up to the users on how to develop the use cases. That is correct. Yes, we would like to, of course, provide various opportunities for how these assets can be utilized. But today's topic is digital currency. So digital currency creating a token economy. And of course, customers, users will be participants to this token economy, as well as other consumers and also service providers. We would like to invite various entities to be participants and service providers. So what you're saying is the game business, I think thinking applies here. You invite various developers and they create the contents on your platform. Yes, not exactly the same, but I think there are similarities that can be drawn with the game business in terms of the business model. Yes. When we talk about the token economy, I'd like to turn to Mr. Hoki. So you're talking about the community currency and you're working with the Fed wallet. So Line, if you consider Line as the community, it's a virtual community, perhaps you may have some interesting thoughts.
Thank you. It's common with what has been mentioned by my two fellow panelists. Mr. Miyazawa also mentioned that the central bank, they issue digital currency, but still they cannot be complacent, and LVC, how services can be deployed for customers. I think it's a common thread of what we are trying to say. Going forward, there will be multiple digital currencies and payment method, and which will survive. Then, what is the determinant of survival, and who will determine the winner or the survival? Is it the central bank or the authorities? No, it is the users who support and decide. The currency will be chosen by the users, how convenient, easy to use, and of course there could be legal enforcement, but if the convenience is much stronger than the legal restraint, and then it could be Link or Libra or whatever. In that regard, central bankers require marketing technology and skills to do CBDC. They will need a new skill.
Thank you very much. So cashless point reimbursement, is that good or not? That's maybe another topic. So I would like to ask a question to all the panelists. Not looking at the next 1-2 years, but the 5-10 years. We look upon 2030, for example. What do you think is the digital currencies future? What kind of a future do you think that digital currencies will create? So starting from you, Miyazawa-san.
はい、先ほどホキ様の説明にもありました
Thank
けれど
you.
も、
Mr. Hoki also
大きくはです
discussed
ね、ボラティリティのある、暗号資産っていうのと、
a cryptocurrency or asset with volatility or completely pegged with a legal tender. Basically, there are the coexistence of two categories. Amongst the digital currencies, I think there are three more subcategories. First is the government back in Japan issued CBDC, or the second subcategory is the private financial institution issued digital currency, and the third is the so-called digital regional currency issued by local government authorities or communities, and they all have different roles to play. In the case of Cambodia, this is unified. It is one single currency for the entire nation, and probably this is going to happen in China, but that is not the case in Japan. It depends on the application. There's the private sector or the central bank issued. There will be coexistence or collaboration. Mr. Hoki mentioned earlier the regional currency. It would be locally produced and locally consumed, or smart city in such limited areas like driverless driving or P2P power sales. The regional currency, there is a huge demand for that in a designated area. For example, to do volunteer activities or to conserve green, there could be conferment or digital currency, or in order to revitalize the economy because of the virus contagion, this currency could be used. There are lots of ideas. We have started Byakko, and there are many requests that they want to do the same as a Byakko. In fact, 10 or so local government authorities are asking us for advice. And the second point is private financial institutions issuing digital currencies, or any other enterprises, even non-financial institutions, that would be used for payment settlement or B2B. Intercompany payment would be using this, because in business enterprises, invoicing is still on paper, so these could be digitalized, or workflow could be digitalized. In such circumstances, if digital currency are utilized, they do not need to annihilate. And the fourth function, the EDI information are available, and therefore this would be a huge efficiency for companies to digitally transform their business. Unlike regional currency, it has a different importance. So these three subcategories, I think, will continue to coexist in Japan.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And Lin-san, please. So this is my personal view, like Mr. Hoki said. So now Soramitsu's Miyazawa-san stated his perspective, but mine is quite different. So digital currency's strength, where this will be utilized, I believe that I'm looking at this on a platform basis. In the past, there has been a platform economy, but going forward, maybe this is a very orthodox way of thinking, but the token economy, I think, is going to be a platform where digital currency will be like the blood flow. I think that is the future that I see. So perhaps there will be two types of digital currency within this token economy. One is a blockchain-based protocol coin, and within that, dApps and service creation tokens. So tokens that can be used to create dApps and services. So for example, to make it easy to understand, Apple's App Store, Apple can create its own digital currency, which will be linked to the economic value of the apps. And also, so companies that provide these various types of apps can create their own tokens. And these tokens do not have an economic value on its own, but this is linked to the protocol token created by Apple so that the digital information starts to take on financial value. Perhaps I'm not sure if 2030 is the right timing, but I think that this is the future that will arrive in a few years. And so service providers and the problems that Apple has or service providers have, I think, can be resolved with this. And so service providers will be able to, for example, develop services where they didn't have the sufficient technology or funding, but they have an interesting idea. I think it will be easier for these companies to develop services and easier for the users to enjoy these services. So we would like to work on creating a token economy as a platform. And I think this is the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much. So when the Bitcoin was released, Bitcoin itself was a form of investment for volatility, but there are many related services that arose as a result of Bitcoin. So when a new platform is created, new businesses will be launched within the platform, I guess. And also, when I talked to the president of Space Market, the reason that Space Market is successful because there are now people who are launching business on the Space Market. So this became a platform. So the secondary and the tertiary service being launched, I think, is an important factor. Thank you very much. And Hoki-san, in 2030, what do you envision? Will auditors still exist?
Well, I can't say whether audit firms will survive. In a span of 20 years or 30 years, if it is the midterm future like that, as Mr. Miyazawa mentioned, he classified 3 different types of currencies depending on the type of issuers. But maybe the 4th category of issuer could be considered, which is like a Bitcoin, no issuer, which I think could become an interesting existence. No issuer, which means there is no marketing people, so it would take time to distribute and disseminate, but owners and the users are increasing steadily. As I mentioned, it's up to the user's choice. Maybe a Bitcoin might be the choice by the users in a few decades, which could become very interesting.
Like decentralized finance, DeFi, this is also becoming bigger. So we don't know who issued this, but there is an economic zone and it is managed under a smart contract. So it's convenient, but also there are many factors that we don't control or understand. So this kind of decentralized finance is now becoming bigger. So nobody can interfere. Banks, central banks cannot control. So it's going to be quite chaotic, perhaps. Thank you very much. So actually, time is almost up. But this was a very interesting discussion. So I'd like to ask for final words from the panelists. Perhaps your expectations for the future of digital currencies. Miyazawa-san, please.
Just one word. From this year to next year, I think this will be the starting year of blockchain, digital currencies. This is about to prosper. Lots of prospects. But you just have to try to understand. Actions are required. I hope that many entities will at least try. You have to try to do it because there are lots of users outside of Japan. Japan is already lagging behind. We need to catch up, and we would like to support as much as possible.
Thank you. And I'd like to talk a bit about LINE. What kind of service will LINE provide? What kind of users what is the kind of service that the users are seeking? I think digitalization and the token economy, I think will create a new value, a new interesting service for users. Of course, there is the LINE Family Service and the various services provided directly from LINE, but additionally, LINE's customer base or LINE's technology or LINE's security wallets can be utilized by other developers. And freely, easily, if these developers can provide service on the platform, and the digital currency and the token economy, it perhaps could be a new scheme to generate new values in the society. Thank you very much. And Hoki-san, please.
Payment and settlement. It's an economic transaction. And settlement is the core, the product, services, whatever is exchanged. Some kind of payment and settlement is required, and this is the very area that is about to transform significantly, and even the private sector can issue, and therefore the world will change, business and societies will also change dramatically. It's a turning point.
Thank you. Our company as well, from August, we have issued the intercompany token. We were able to send thanks points to one another because we have to try it to understand. So I think many companies will start to take on these challenges, and then the society will be more interesting. Once again, thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please send a big round of applause to the panelists and the participants. Thank you very much.